Abir Adamu, who is a security analyst, and he joins me now live from Abuja. Thank you for being with us on the program today. Now, Macron hadn't removed his ambassador when the coup had first happened, saying that he didn't think that the junta or the coup leaders were legitimate. What position does Macron's decision put the junta in now?
I think Macron's position has not changed. He still maintains that the legitimate authority in Niger is the ousted president, Bazoum. And that is the position that at the moment most African countries, including ECOWAS as a multilateral body, as well as AU as a multilateral body. And at the just concluded UN General Assembly, this played out. There were two letters to the UN, one from the foreign minister that was appointed by the junta, and then the other one by the ousted foreign minister, who, by the way, is on exile. He was outside the country when the coup happened, and I think the UN is yet to take a decision on which of these two letters to recognize until the General Assembly ended. Another organ of the UN will consider, that. But if we look at what happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, the UN is likely to go with whatever the government in place, for instance, submits to it. But point I'm trying to make is that there is no consensus at the moment regarding the recognition by the junta. If I'm going to project, all of that will become history in a very short time. It's likely that the junta will be recognized, and then a short transition, just like it's happening in Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea would also be the case in Niger.
What about the damage that's being done now to French influence in the region overall? The coup leaders say that France failed to keep their security promises. Nigerians feel the same way. Residents across the Sahel feel the same way, really. Where did it start going downhill, and why hasn't the French been successful in its anti-terror operations in the Sahel overall?
Well, frankly, from the get-go, I would say France took up a responsibility that it would be unable to meet. The size of the Sahel, the challenges that are inherent within the Sahel, and then sadly, the inability of the national governments that we're discussing to also provide for the basic needs of their citizens means it would be impossible for the France as a single entity to address. What would have been best would be to have worked with other international partners to ensure, in the first place, improved governance. And I think that is one thing that the entire world is not discussing enough. How do we hold governments in this region accountable so that they meet the basic needs of their people? And then, of course, the second element is how do we ensure that non-state armed groups do not have access to weapons? I mean, I made reference earlier on to the position of AU as well as ECOWAS on the coup in Niger. Sadly, based on the outcome of developments that happened during the General Assembly, it's very clear that the world is not supporting that position. So some of the diplomatic efforts by France and other parts of the world is also undermining that effort by ECOWAS as well as AU.
Could we see a rise in terror attacks with Macron's decision, and could this be seen as a situation for opportunity for others, for example, like Russia, who we know wants to increase its influence in the region?
So the greatest benefactor of the current situation are honestly these terror groups, the non-state armed groups that are referred to. The more the legitimate governments and the multilateral agencies fail to work together, gaps are created that are being exploited by these non-state armed groups. And more importantly, the current platforms, arrangements that have been put in place to support the counter-terrorism effort in the region are failing. The G5 initiative is almost dead. The multinational joint task force that is domiciled in Chad is also affected by the exit of Niger. So the more this disagreement between the various players continue to play out, then the more gaps are created that are being exploited by this non-state armed group. So in response to your answer, yes, it's also very possible that other players will take advantage. Russia is likely to take advantage just like it did in Mali and in Guinea, and of course in Central African Republic. We could see that playing out in Niger, even though we've seen the United States playing a more strategic decision in that regard. It's yet to call the development a coup. It has established some form of diplomatic exchanges with the junta. So again, that may prevent Russia from coming in, but time would tell.
Security analyst Kabir Adamu, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us here on TRT World.